to the 3rd of March, 1999. A car moving through New Jersey toward a sit-down with New York. There are 4 men inside. They are members and associates of a crime family that most Americans have never heard of, and they are in a good mood. Business is good. Their names are starting to carry weight in rooms where they used to be ignored. One of them brings up a television show. It has been on the air for 2 months. It is about a mob family in New Jersey. "Hey," one of them says, "what's this thing, Sopranos?" Another one answers, "He likes it." "What characters?" he says. "Great acting." They talk it over the way any 4 men in a car talk over a show they have started watching. Whether it is any good, whether it is realistic, whether it is supposed to be them, every word of that conversation is being recorded. The recorder is in the car with them. He is one of the 4. He has been working for the Federal Bureau of Investigation for over a year, and the tape he is making that afternoon will end up as an exhibit in a federal indictment in Manhattan. So on the 3rd of March, 1999, a group of New Jersey mobsters sat in a car and reviewed a television drama about a New Jersey mob crew with an informant inside it, while an informant sat among them wearing a wire. Nobody in that car knew it, and 13 months later, HBO would air the episode where the informant on the show gets found out, taken onto a boat, and shot. His name on television was Salvatore Bonpensiero. Everybody called him Big Pussy. This is the story of the family that was actually being recorded. Because the man who wore the wire in real life did not die on a boat, and the man who ordered the killings did not go down with his crew. He went to Texas. The character first. Salvatore Bonpensiero, played by Vincent Pastore, is not a boss and never tries to be. He is a soldier. He is Tony Soprano's oldest friend. He fixes cars. He handles bodies. He sits at the table at every christening and every funeral. And when Tony's mother needs moving, he is the one who moves her. He is written as the safest man in the room. That is the point of him. Somewhere between 1995 and 1998, the FBI arrests him. On the show, it is heroin, and it is enough to put him away for the rest of his life. He is handed to an agent named Skip Lipari, and he starts talking. For 2 seasons, he sits inside the crew, wearing a recorder, and the audience knows it, and Tony does not. He is found out in the 2nd season finale. Tony has a fever dream on the Jersey shore, in which Sal appears to him as a fish on a market stall and admits what he has been doing. Tony wakes up, goes to Sal's house, and finds a wire in a cigar box in the bedroom. The next morning, 3 men take him out on the boat. Tony, Paulie, Silvio. There is a drink and a conversation, and Sal asks to be shot in the face rather than the head. They shoot him in the chest. Then they wrap him in plastic and chain and drop him over the side. That episode is called Funhouse. It aired on the 9th of April, 2000. Hold that date, it matters later. The show never said which family it was drawn from, and David Chase has always described the Dimeo family as invention. But from the 1st season, one real organization kept coming up, and it came up because federal prosecutors kept saying so. The DeCavalcante crime family of Elizabeth, New Jersey. They are the 6th family, not one of the 5. New York had the Gambinos, the Genoveses, the Luccheses, the Bonanos and the Colombos. And across the water in Union County, New Jersey, there was a smaller outfit that had been there since the 1920s. It began as the Elizabeth faction, built by Filippo Amari, who brought in men whose surnames would still be running the family 60 years later. Riggi, Larasso, Maggiore. In 1964, the family passed to Simone DeCavalcante. Sam, he ran a heating and air conditioning company in Kenilworth as a front, which is how he became Sam the Plumber, and he doubled the number of made men under him during the 1960s. He is also the reason the FBI understood the American Mafia in the first place. Federal agents bugged his office. For 4 years they listened, and what they got was thousands of pages of a mob boss doing paperwork. Not murders, not conspiracies out of a film, complaints, grievances, 2 soldiers who cannot get along, a man whose wife is unhappy, somebody's son who will not work. Sam DeCavalcante spent most of his recorded life managing other men's problems and being tired about it. 28 years before The Sopranos put a mob boss in a psychiatrist's chair, the FBI had already taped one complaining that the job was mostly listening to people whine. In 1969, he and 54 others were charged. He pleaded guilty to a gambling operation the government valued at $20 million a year and went away for 5 years. By the early 80s, he had retired to Florida, and he handed the family to a union man from Elizabeth named Giovanni Riggi. John Riggi, business agent for laborers, local 394. He built the family into the construction trades and the labor rackets, and he was, by every account, a serious man. In 1990, he was convicted of racketeering, and here is where the DeCavalcantes stop resembling a normal crime family and start resembling a television plot. Riggi did not step down. He ran the family from a federal prison cell for the next 22 years. He appointed acting bosses to run the street for him. The first was John D'Amato. In late 1991, word reached the family's leadership that D'Amato had been having sexual relationships with men. The consigliere, Stefano Vitabile, approved his killing. In January 1992, D'Amato was lured to a parked car in Brooklyn and shot. The acting boss of a New York area crime family was murdered by his own administration and buried on a property upstate, and the New York families were never formally told why. The next acting boss was Giacomo Amari, Jake. He held the street for 5 years, and then he began to die of stomach cancer, slowly, in front of everyone, and the family watched a chair empty in real time, without any agreement about who would sit in it. Amari died on the 14th of June, 1997. What followed was a 3-man ruling panel, which is what organizations create when nobody can win outright. Girolamo Palermo, Charles Maggiore, and a Brooklyn-born capo who had married into the DeCavalcante family and turned a Queens strip club into the most profitable thing the family owned. Vincent Palermo, Vinny, Ocean. He was born in New York in June 1944 and got the nickname Early, working at the Fulton Fish Market. He married a niece of Sam DeCavalcante, which, in that world, is not a wedding, it is an appointment. He ran a topless bar in Queens called Wiggles. And on the 11th of September, 1989, he took part in the murder that made his career. The victim was Fred Weiss, a 50-year-old associate who had been caught up in a waste-dumping prosecution alongside members of the Gambino family. John Gotti wanted him gone. Gotti asked Riggi. Riggi gave the order. Weiss was shot outside his home on Staten Island. Palermo was there. A soldier named Anthony Capo was in the car, turned around from the passenger seat, and fired. Palermo was made a captain out of it. Within a few years he was, in practice, running the family. Now watch what the panel does to itself. Charles Maggiore, the son of the family's old consigliere, believed the acting boss job should have been his alone. So he contracted a soldier named James Gallo to kill Vincent Palermo. Gallo took the contract. Then Gallo went to Vincent Palermo and told him about it. A retaliation plot was drawn up against Maggiore, and then it was called off. Nobody was killed. 2 men who had each arranged to have the other one murdered went back to work, sat in the same rooms, and split the same money for another year. If a writer had put that in a script in 1998, a network would have sent it back as implausible. Then there is Joseph Masella, Joey O. He was close to Palermo. He worked as his bodyguard. He was also, by 1998, a gambling problem with a man attached to it, into the New Jersey family and several New York families for something in the region of $450,000, and he had begun making enemies in rooms where Palermo had to answer for him. On the night of the 10th of October, 1998, Joey O was lured to the Dyker Beach golf course in Brooklyn and shot several times. He was found on the course. The order came from Vincent Palermo, his friend, the man he protected. That is the same year, on the same side of the river, that HBO was shooting a pilot about a New Jersey mob boss who has a panic attack because the pressure of the job has started to leak out of him sideways. And the machine that would take all of it apart had already started, 9 months before Joey O died, on the 11th floor of an office building in Lower Manhattan. The 14th of January, 1998. A Brinks crew delivers cash to a Bank of America office inside One World Trade Center. 3 men walk in and take $1.6 million. It is the largest cash robbery in New York in years, and it was put together by a small-time Staten Island criminal named Ralph Guarino, who never went up to the 11th floor himself. He had a source inside the building, a World Trade Center worker who told him when the armored truck came and how the money moved. Guarino recruited 3 men to do the actual robbery. That was his mistake. They were not professionals. They were photographed on the building's cameras, they were picked up quickly, and less than 10 days after the robbery, federal agents were at Ralph Guarino's house on Staten Island. He was looking at serious federal time. He had a connection to the De Cavalcante family. The FBI made him an offer, and Ralph Guarino went back in. He spent the next 2 years inside the family, wearing a recorder. Not as a made man. He was never that. He was an associate, a useful earner, exactly the kind of man who gets waved into a car without anybody thinking twice. He recorded them at meetings. He recorded them at meals. He recorded them driving. Which brings us back to the car on the 3rd of March 1999. Joseph Sclafani was in it. They called him Tin Ear. So was Anthony Rotondo, a captain, the son of a captain, whose own father had been shot to death in his car outside his Brooklyn home in January 1988. They were driving to a sit-down with New York, and they started talking about the show. Sclafani asked what this Sopranos thing was. Rotondo talked about the characters and the acting. They went back and forth about whether it was meant to be them, and there is a note of something like pride in it, because for men in the Sixth Family, being mistaken for the main event was a promotion. Ralph Guarino sat there and let the tape run. That recording became an exhibit. On the 2nd of December, 1999, federal agents arrested more than 30 members and associates of the De Cavalcante crime family in one coordinated sweep. Racketeering, murder conspiracy, extortion in the construction trades, stock fraud. The entire leadership went in at once. Vincent Palermo looked at the charges and understood 2 things immediately. The government had years of tape, and several of the counts against him carried the possibility of a capital case. Within weeks of his arrest, the acting boss of the De Cavalcante crime family began cooperating with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. In October 2000, he pleaded guilty. 4 murders, 7 murder conspiracies, extortion, loan sharking, gambling, obstruction of justice. He admitted killing Fred Weiss. He admitted the murder of the capo Louis Larasso. He admitted the plot that killed Joey O. Masella, and he admitted planning to kill Charles Majuri, the man who had once contracted to kill him. And then he named everyone. Anthony Capo, the shooter from the Weiss murder, became a government witness the same year and pleaded guilty to 11 murder conspiracies and participation in 2 murders. Anthony Rotondo, the captain who had praised the acting in the car, began cooperating in early 2003 and admitted his own part in 4 killings, including D'Amato's. The underboss cooperated. A capo cooperated. The consigliere was convicted. Between 1999 and 2005, roughly 45 men connected to the De Cavalcante family went to prison, and the family that had survived since the 1920s was described in federal filings as being close to finished. John Riggi, still the official boss, was still in a cell. He had been hoping for release in 2003. Instead, he was charged again and given another 10 years. He came out in November 2012, an old man, and died in 2015. Now put the 2 calendars side by side. On the 9th of April 2000, HBO aired Funhouse. 12 million people watched 3 men take a fat, friendly, 40-year friend out onto the water and shoot him for wearing a wire, and it became one of the most talked about hours of television of that year. Wearing a wire was the unforgivable thing. The show was completely certain about that. By the 9th of April 2000, the actual acting boss of the actual New Jersey crime family had already been cooperating with the FBI for roughly 3 months. He was not a soldier who got caught with heroin. He was the man at the top. He was the one who gave the orders that killed Fred Weiss and Joey O. Masella, and when the tape ran out, he traded all of it, including the murders he committed personally, for a sentence. In May 2003, the New York Post reported that Anthony Rotondo had been asked on the witness stand about the family and the television show, and he answered, A New Jersey mobster stood in a federal courtroom under oath and gave testimony about what his crew thought of a drama about New Jersey mobsters, having been recorded discussing it by a man who was working for the government at the time. Vincent Palermo served a fraction of what he could have faced, and then he disappeared into the federal witness protection program with his family under the name James Cabela. He went to Houston, Texas. He got into real estate, and he ran strip clubs, which is the trade he knew. In September 2009, the New York Daily News found him and printed it. The former acting boss of the DeCavalcante crime family was living in a gated Houston mansion under a different name, doing more or less exactly what he had done in Queens. He filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in March 2013. The Houston house sold in 2016 for $2.85 million. Salvatore Bonpensiero was never a real person. There was no big pussy in Elizabeth, New Jersey. The character was written to embody a fear, and the fear was true, and the show punished it exactly the way the code said it should be punished. But the code was the fiction. In the real family, in the same years, on the same stretch of highway, the associate who wore the wire was never suspected and walked away. The captain who praised the show's acting became a witness. The shooter became a witness. The underboss became a witness. And the man who would have had to order the killing on the boat, the man who was the boss in everything but title, got there first and made his own deal before any of them. The Sopranos ended with a made man in the water for being an informant. The DeCavalcantes ended with almost the entire administration on the government side of the table. The show got the fear right. It just gave the loyalty to the wrong people.